Okay, hey there guys. So, backtracking one war to war number 9. I know I didn't get this war out, so I'm going to be slapping it onto this one because this war especially is very, very short, and so is this next war, the war that we're on today. So I'm just going to be doing both at the same time. So, this first war, war number 9, was up against TCN. So, yeah, just TCN things, right? So, one of the main competitors always against us, the MJA, New Nation, right? It's one of those alliances, so defensive masteries and putting on like the best offensive masteries I can. So in section 1, I only have this Immortal Abomination here on path 6. I am going to be taking it with my Nimrod. So I was a little bit annoyed because I kind of wanted to. I was considering using like a 20% boost for this fight because I have suicides on, and I was using those two 6-hour boosts just so I could only buy them the one time. And I needed a person to be here to let me into section 2. And as you saw, I don't have many of the 30% boosts left, so I wanted to try to use one if I could. So he wasn't going to show up, but I was kind of told we should really be using the 30s here, so I do. I am going to use it. So I was kind of trying just to play this slow to build as many armors as I can before I get to this SP2. I really want to get off these parries here if I can. I'm up to 7 armor, so I like that a fair bit. And I'm going to throw it off, and it's 4.5 per tick, which is not the biggest I've seen, right? We've seen close to like 9k ticks, I think, against mutants with like 17 armors or something. But it's a fairly solid chunk, and it gets me back half a bar of power. I have on the tech. Wait, I think I have the tech power back boost on. Maybe I shouldn't have let him throw that SP1 for those petrifies, honestly. But here, I realize when I'm giving him prowess, I'm actually also like doing the little shocks. So I started throwing the like 4 light hit combos to give him extra prowess there. And the second SP2 finishes him off because it's a second SP2 from Nimrod. Not many champions can survive that. So I had to end up waiting. I left this recording going for 23 minutes, waiting to see what was going to happen. I ended up just sitting there waiting. So finally, the person comes, and I'm actually still on my one set of boosts. But I had one fight with Torch this war. Just the one fight. And I was told by my officer I have one free R4 this season, and then we were going to like save one R4 just in case, because I pretty much have an extra R4 I can do. I'm at like 2 or 3 catalysts. I would just have to do like a single Karina's run or something kind of like that, and I'd get the extra catalyst. So I go and rank for my Torch, kind of just completing the super damage duo I have at rank 4 now with AA and Torch. There's a couple other guys I want to get up there with him, so Torch is now rank 4. If you saw the full screen there, it happened pretty quick. You'll know who he is for. In retrospect, I should have used a white Magneto here. I was supposed to use it somewhere, but I think someone else ended up putting it down for me, and so I ended up not using it, if I'm remembering this correctly. The white Magneto is not essential for this fight. It just makes it a little bit smoother because he gets a little bit less power and stuff like that. So right here, I'm looking at my timer. I'm like, I've got half of it. If he comes in immediately, I throw it. Okay. So, oh no, that's right. I decided not to throw it. So what I do is I wait, I re-parry, then I go for 4 light hits, and if you notice, I get just below SP3, so I timed it all just right. It gets me back, again, about a half bar of power. So I want to try to, I'm going to go for a parry here. I want to go for a parry, because, right, the way his, works, the reverberation is based on the power. When you give him a debuff, it gives him power, so by parrying, I push him above 2 bars of power, making his total power lower. So right here, I'm a little bit against the wall, and this is where I was getting, not like worried, but concerned. Every debuff I have on him gives him a fairly solid amount of attack rating, actually, and it's also giving him willpower healing, which I cannot prevent. So right here, I'm like, not worried, but this is not my favorite part of this fight. I really wanted to be able to get an intercept off, but like I was against my wall. He had just used a bar of power, and I think he was really close to another. So as you see, I'm just looking for this light intercept because that's all I need. I just need one. But I throw that one like a complete idiot. I've done that again now. I still got 2 shocks out of it, but if I had just waited a split second longer, it would have completely killed him. So the reason why that's just like a complete idiotic little move, for when I threw it, I was looking at it, and as you noticed, right, I got like the final 2 hits to get the shocks. So if I had used a light combo ender to switch myself into the blitz to get the shocks on the first 2 hits, the timer would have ticked over into Titan mode, not giving me shocks on the next 2 hits. But I wanted to try to throw it as quick as I could, and I had already kind of like committed into using that finger going for the special, right? Because when you play, you're using a certain amount of like active like brain power and a certain amount of like passive, just like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do, and it's just kind of like happening, if you get what I'm saying. And I had already kind of been like, okay, I'm gonna light intercept, and once I do, I throw my SP2. I use a light ender and I throw SP2. But then once it happened, that's what happened there. So here, I saw my one officer sent me a video of this, so I have the white Magneto here. That was a really weird one, and then again, I thought that should have been a light intercept, but it doesn't work. I take physical burst damage, but he is gone. Look at this damage. What is happening on this fight? I'm sorry, Ace, bro. Like, I still don't know. 22 seconds. That power sting was insane. I don't know what was happening there. Like, I didn't have that many smolders. It's just rank 4 torch. A couple smolders, the Fury, class advantage. Just absurd what he just put out there. So 2-1 is the final score. We got to win, which of course is the result that we are looking for there. They had a very, very fast time. Both of us had very fast, but literally within not even like 7.1, just 7,000 seconds is so fast, even for this season. This is a very, very tense war, very incredible. Their one death, I think, was a DC, actually. So, got a little bit of help there. If I'm remembering correctly, I think I heard it was a DC or something like that happened that was really weird. I might be remembering that wrong. Not entirely sure. But, yeah, so massive GGs to them. It's always a good war. And good luck at the end of the season, guys. Which then brings us immediately into the next war, war number 10, so the first war of the final week. We're finally here, really, really happy with how this season has gone so far, just in many different ways, but it's up against JA. As I said at the start of this video, right, you have those JAs, Noon, TCN, back at JA right away. So, big boosts on again, power boost, suicides on. This is now after the global because of that Cersei. So also my plan came out kind of weird today. It was just funny how it all worked, but thankful for the officer because I was a little bit busy today, so he made it work really well, as he always does. So this Kingpin fight could be annoying if you don't have a shrug off counter. When he shrugs off, he's going to start to do damage back to you. So you would have to basically just spend the whole fight not hitting him. It would be such a bad fight. But Apocalypse here, right, never gets shrugged off. And it's over. Second SP2. That's what Suicides rank 4 Apocalypse does. What is that? 40-second fight. Most of that baiting specials because the only downside to using Apocalypse as a Kingpin counter, not there on other nodes, because this node, it's necessary. But on other nodes, the issue with it, in my opinion, has always been Kingpin's power rate technically scales very high. Because he doesn't shrug off the rages of his. I think they're called the rages, and those give him extra attack and extra power rate. So it can technically get out of hand, but as you saw, by 2 SP2s, and that's with the power start 1, it's just over. So here, well, it's David. I've known David for a fair amount of time now, I guess. Yeah, he's a cool dude. So for this Cersei, I went in. I wasn't thinking much about it, but then a couple hits into the fight, I realized, should I use a heavy to trigger her glance early, or do I do it off of the SP2? And I decided my SP2 is going to hit hard enough through the block. Or not through the block, through the glance. And it did, and I got a ton of power. I got enough power for an SP1, which once the glance is over, I now have the 4 debuffs up. Just rinses her. The glance technically could have not been an issue, but it could have been odd. But I'm glad I didn't overcomplicate my plan, kind of like I did in the first war of this video with the Nimrod light ending combo. By the way, everyone, if you have the profile, make sure to switch to it to represent and support the GT40 leader. Kind of forgot about that. Everyone's got to show support for him if you can. Great dude. So here, I was assigned Horseman Cable here, but my officer and I were talking about it, and we were like, well, I could also technically just use the Apocalypse with Suicides here. And my mindset, I was like, man, I just did so well with Apocalypse in those last 2 fights. Do I just want to run it back? I have the power boosts, I have the power start 1, but I decided to not, and I decided to just trust in Cable here, which I think you're going to see how good of an idea that is. So I have the Invul on, and I also have Horseman, so if I get hit, I also have an Unstoppable along with the Invulnerability. Now look at those ticks. He is melting. The Limber here wasn't like messing with me against Diddy. I mean, everyone runs 5 out of 5. I've just been finding this season the game's controls to sometimes be a bit off on that. Like, you saw how slow that was there. I'm not sure if it's me or the game's controls. Sometimes on this 5 out of 5 Limber has felt a bit weird, but Cable shredded that in under 30 seconds. Just eviscerates it. So I swap off Suicides and I put on Deep Wounds to go in here with Nick Fury. So I was just making sure I understood her abilities. I fought her in the EQ, but I haven't fought her in War yet this season. I was offered Red Magneto or Nick Fury for this. I had some choices today to make, which was weird. So I was just like going over, just double checking it all. And I was like, okay, yeah, easy. She'll have an evade, but it's a 5% chance. It's super, super low. So I go in, I'm just going to go for my 4-hit light combo. I really like doing that a lot with Nick Fury. And also, I kind of didn't think about this. She's buff immune? Yeah, so she doesn't get the regen, I think. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. She can definitely be a little bit trippy, I guess, right? With like the phasing and all of that stuff. But I fought her enough times, so I have a good enough understanding of how to punish that SP2 and stuff. I accidentally converted my bleeds to the passive, which was definitely not what I meant to do, but pretty simple. I was kind of told to use SP1 to shrug off her stuff, but the heavy was working for me, and I only really had to shrug it off that one time, and the fight was over really fast. Nick Fury, absolute monster for War. I feel like he's gotten overshadowed in the past like couple seasons with different champions, like using Shang-Chi or using Jabari for the niche, stuff like that. But I feel like Nick Fury is still just such a monster and so safe because of that second life. So we're down on fights by a little bit. So we're also down on time a little bit, which is really, really odd. We've been really good about being up on time this season and just in general. But this war is a little bit off. But so far, it's a really, really good war against JA. Always love the war against them. It's always really close, and it always feels like such a good competition between people, like a lot of the guys there. Same with TCN. So both of these wars were a lot of fun for me. I hope you guys are having a good week. I hope you guys have a great weekend and have some good weather. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Bye.